How to create a combat mission scenario AI plan. Part 4. Using triggers and coordinating AI groups. This video series is designed for those who are completely new to creating scenario AI plans for the Battlefront Combat Mission game series. As a reminder, in this series I'm creating an AI plan in Red Thunder for a German attack using half-tracks, mounted infantry and attached tanks. While I'm using Combat Mission Red Thunder, the tools and approaches for creating AI plans are the same across all games in the Combat Mission series, as they share the same game engine. In parts 1 and 2, I covered AI plan fundamentals and the AI plan setup phase. If you haven't seen these parts and are new to creating AI plans in Combat Mission, I recommend watching them before continuing with this section. If you're already familiar with the basic AI plan fundamentals, how to allocate units to AI groups in the setup phase, then please feel free to dive straight into part 3 before you watch this. In part 4, I'll demonstrate how to use triggers to coordinate AI groups. Please note that triggers tie in with the exit between and times and the AI order, so please ensure you are familiar with that game engine mechanic before diving into this. And before I get into how we use triggers, if you like my content, I'd really appreciate if you could please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you. What's a trigger? The same basic principles for creating a trigger apply to both order and objective type triggers. A trigger can be used to help coordinate actions between AI groups within an AI plan. You can tell an AI group to wait for another AI group to execute an order. They can also be used to have the AI group or groups wait for a unit, enemy or friendly, to touch a trigger objective. The same basic principles for creating a trigger apply to both order and objective type triggers. Order triggers work well when enemy contact is not generally expected. Why? Well, if the AI group is wiped out or so seriously degraded it ceases to move, it could seriously mess up your trigger sequence, as every unit teed up to the trigger that unit would activate just sits and waits. Objective triggers. Objective triggers work well for having AI groups react to enemy activity, and also if enemy kinetic contact is expected, then may provide a more cautious advance. Though the same caveat as above about AI groups being wiped out, becoming immobile stands and not activating a trigger applies. It's also worth noting you've only got 15 terrain objective slots, so if you use a stack of them for objectives within the AI plan, you'll have fewer to use as objective triggers. What triggers do not do? What triggers cannot do is provide alternate commands. That's a quote from the Combat Mission Game Engine Manual. The AI group allocated a sequence of AI orders will still follow one order after another without branching until the end of the AI order sequence, or death, whichever comes first. You cannot tie them to conditions such as casualties or a specific enemy action. For example, you can't have your AI Group 2 withdraw if it sustains in excess of 30% casualties, or AI Group 2 withdraws if enemy fire targets its location. What triggers do is allow you to control when the next AI order in the sequence executes based on the trigger parameters you choose. Setting up a trigger. Triggers are always set up first and then linked to specific AI group orders. A trigger can be used by as many AI orders and as many friendly AI groups as you want, but an AI order can only be assigned to use one trigger. Setup can never be used as a trigger, and the last order of a group can never be triggered. For an orders trigger, you must identify a specific AI order. And note, setup is not an order, within a friendly AI group and change the pop-up just below the order number to can trigger from not trigger. Now that you have a trigger specified, you need to instruct one or more AI groups to use it. Find the order you want to wait for a trigger and click on the Wait For button at the bottom of the Orders panel. When you do this, a dialog appears with a pop-up menu that shows all the triggers you have made. Select one and it becomes the active trigger for that order. For an objective trigger, you must first designate a terrain objective on the map, which you do by painting the area you want to be the trigger, much as you do for a terrain objective. Then choose what sort of unit can trip it. You can choose between friendly or enemy and either any type of unit or only armoured units. Exit between times and triggers. The first thing to understand is how the exit between times affect tripping. The first time tells the AI to never start the order until that time, even if the trigger is tripped. The second time tells the AI to never start the order later than that time, even if the trigger is not tripped. The time period between the first and second settings is when the order is paused, waiting for the trigger to be tripped. If you want an AI group to always wait for a trigger to be tripped, leave the first timer to 00 and set the second timer to something greater than the scenario's maximum game time. If you want an AI group to give up on a trigger if it isn't tripped by a particular time, and note this is a good fail-safe to prevent your AI plan from stalling, then leave the first timer to 00 and set the second timer to the time you have in mind. As I said, this is worth doing as a fail-safe to your whole AI plan stalling should an AI group assigned to a trigger become immobile due to terrain, enemy action, or death. Sometimes you'll want an AI group to wait until a specific time, even if the trigger is tripped, in which case you set the first timer to that time. If the trigger is tripped before then, the AI group will start executing its order only when the first timer's time is reached. If it hasn't been tripped by then, the AI group will remain idle until either the trigger is tripped or the second timer's time is reached, whichever happens first. Creating an order trigger example. When is an order trigger triggered? Like the movement behaviour associated with an order, the order trigger mechanism influences the order prior, which means if you want to key off an AI group arriving in the painted area of order 3, you select order 3, can trigger, as the trigger, but the AI group will trip the trigger when they move out under order 2 timings. AI groups linked to the order trigger, wait for, will immediately begin the next order sequence as soon as the order trigger is tripped. So as an example of how an order can be used as a trigger, I've chosen the Panther platoon, which is AI group 2, order 3, to be a trigger and activated it accordingly. This means when the Panther AI group move out from their order 2 start point, 42 minutes on the timer, or 1403 hours on the clock, using the movement behaviour activated in order 3, they'll also trip the trigger activated in order 3. I've then chosen the SPW, which is AI group 4, who will be sitting idle in their setup zone, to be linked, that's wait for, the Panthers AI order 3, which has the active trigger. When the Panthers move out from the order 2 at 42 minutes, that's 1403 hours on the clock, they will trip the can trigger in order 3. Immediately the trigger is tripped by the Panthers, the AI group that the SPW are in will begin their next order sequence. I've ensured their exit between time is set to 00 whilst the AND timer is set to 6 minutes. This means the SPW will stay put in the setup zone till the Panthers trigger the activated trigger in order 3 when they move out with the timings linked to order 2. If the Panther group meet with a sudden and catastrophic battle event and fails to move out from their order 2 start point, the SPW will sit patiently till the game timer reaches 39 minutes. That's 1406 in the game clock. Then the SPW will move off anyways. This is a useful failsafe to prevent your AI plan stalling due to battle casualties or events in the order trigger AI group. Now, let's fire out a scenario in the game. Mind and choose play as the opposite side to the AI plan you're testing, and choose scenario author test. Right, wee top tip here. For testing, I always ensure that the other side have got target arcs and they're hiding. This avoids any distractions to my AI groups due to enemy interference. For now, all I want to do is just sketch out my general plan of manoeuvre. So, what I'm hoping to see happen is the Panthers will roll out, eventually reaching their Order 2 start point. Panther AI Group 2 now arrive at their Order 2 start point. And at 14:03 hours and 42 minutes on the timer, they'll move out. There's a wee close-up of the timers, 42 minutes and 14:03. Then the Point Panther starts to move and the SPW begin to move. Panthers are now at Group 2 Order 3 start point. The Panthers continue on their order sequence. SPWs move to their SPW Order 2 start point, at which point they reach at 39 minutes or 14:06 hours on the clock. Creating an objective trigger example. Compared to setting up order triggers, creating an objective trigger is pretty straightforward. Objective orders are the way to get an AI group to react to activity from either friendly or enemy units. This can be any type of unit or just armoured ones. Once a unit trips an objective trigger, any AI group or groups linked to that trigger will jump into action straight away. It doesn't matter when in the turn it happens, the connected AI group will immediately begin carrying out their next assigned order. I usually use objective orders to get my AI groups reacting to enemy movements, and they're also especially handy in larger or longer scenarios. And I'm thinking ones that are over an hour long with lots of AI groups and units. Here I find objective triggers tend to be a bit more robust when things get messy. For example, if you set a trigger to respond to friendly, even something like a dismounted tank crew can still activate it. That flexibility can really help avoid situations where AI groups are stuck waiting on each other. Those circular logic traps can be a real pain in the arse when you're trying to plan your AI plan. So, picking up from where we left off with our Panthers, AI Group 2, set up in a base of fire position and hull down positions just before a sunken track, and now have them push forward and trigger an objective trigger. That trigger would be linked to the SPW group, which would then start moving into their own support by fire position. That in turn will give the Panthers cover to keep advancing, this time with the SPW in Overwatch. Nice and tidy. So first off, I need to decide where I want the Panthers to make the move to. I think I'll move them up into the sunken track. Next, I'll open up the Terrain Objectives Axis tab in the editor. Step 1. I'll select an unused objective slot. In this case, let's use slot 3. Yeah, a top tip here. I would normally use the slots counting from 15 backwards and reserve the slots from 1 onwards for terrain objectives that count for victory conditions. You need to consider this as you only have 15 slots in total that can be used as an objective, whether it be a terrain objective for victory conditions or a terrain objective as an AI trigger. Step 2. I'll then paint the objective trigger where I need it. The shape doesn't really matter. It could be a large blob, a nice geometric shape, a line, whatever, just as long as it is where you expect the AI group or the enemy forces, if you were creating an objective trigger to be activated by enemy activity, to move through. It's also worth naming it something you recognise or makes sense to you. In this case, I've called it GP4 SPW forward FWD 002. Keep the name short though, so it does not obscure the timing text in the AI order tab. I'll make it a friendly trigger armour, and for this example, though in this scenario it does not really matter whether it's armoured or not. In larger scenarios, perhaps with dismounted infantry accompanying tanks, it would do, especially if you only want an armour group or vice versa to activate an objective trigger. Step 3. Next, I open up the AI tab in the editor, go to my Access AI Plan 1, and make sure you open the correct AI plan, an appropriate slide. It's remarkably easy done to not do this. Assign the Panther AI group to their movement order. The last order ended at 5 minutes into the scenario, or 40 minutes on the timer, 14 or 5 hours on the game clock. So I'll give them exit between time is set to 06 minutes, whilst the and time is set to 7 minutes. Movement behaviour set to dash. That means they should then move out at 39 minutes on the timer or 14:06 hours on the clock. Step 4. Still in the AI tab, I then go to my SPW AI Group 4. Assign the SPW AI Group 4 their movement order to where I want them to move to when the Panther AI Group 2 triggers the objective trigger. I've ensured that exit between time is set to 00, whilst the and time is set to 10 minutes. Movement behaviour is set to dash. Step 5. I then make the SPW AI Group 4 Order 2 is linked to the objective trigger. Top tip, I would suggest the and time is set such that A, the AI group will only enact their order if it is activated, in which case you might choose to set the and time as beyond the end of the scenario, or to prevent your AI plan stalling, set an and time not too far in the future. So let's see how it all works out. We start where we left off with 40 minutes on the scenario timer or 14:05 hours on the clock. The Panthers are hull down and the SPW are in full defilade in their wee hollow. If we hit the Alt-J hotkey, that's toggle show objectives, we'll not only see the terrain objectives I've allocated, but also the AI objective trigger. At 39 minutes, we should see the Panthers move out to a line in the sunken track. As soon as the first Panther touches the painted trigger objective, the SPW will dash forward and take up their assigned positions. Yeah, you're just going to have to accept the janky crisscross AI pathing. It's way more pronounced when you do short bounds on small maps with vehicles, like I'm doing in this case. Longer distances and bounds can moderate this to some extent, but it is what it is, I'm afraid, in the current game engine. The tricky part. Triggers and KISS. While setting up triggers is pretty straightforward, getting them to do what you want is not as easily done. So starting out using triggers, I suggest avoiding creating a complex AI plan. The more independent your AI groups are to each other, the more challenging and frustrating it's going to be to get the results you want. Avoid the circular logic trap. One of the most common sources of error is having two or more groups use triggers to leapfrog each other. Now, this can definitely work. However, designer error and/or unforeseen game events can often cause a huge chain reaction that stops your AI from functioning. For example, you could find Group 2 waiting for Group 3, which is waiting for Group 4, which is unexpectedly waiting for Group 2. This error is sometimes called circular logic. Now, careful use of the exit between timers can limit the damage, but keeping things simple is an even better way to go. Objective triggers prompt AI to react to enemy movement. Whilst I've not directly covered using trigger objectives to allow AI control groups to react to enemy activity, the principle is pretty much the same as illustrated above, except you'll have units keying off enemy movement, i.e. when an enemy unit trips a painted objective trigger, this activates an allocated AI group specific reaction. So for example, an anti-tank unit will unhide and open fire, or a tank unit moves out from its hide position in full defilade to hull down firing positions in line of fire of the trigger objective, and in doing so prompts another tank unit to begin a flanking movement. So you can get quite sophisticated reactions to enemy movement. Objective and orders triggers, the illusion of AI with brains. So combining objective and orders triggers can produce some sophisticated behaviour if done right. But for now, if new to using triggers, my best advice is just keep it simple. And don't expect AI control groups to operate like those under human control would do. Just ain't going to happen. Next, in part 5, I'll look at dismounting infantry and how to coordinate an attack between different AI group elements. If you like my content, I'd really appreciate if you could please hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch us, and catch you next time. Cheery!